Hey guys, what's going on? So today we are talking a bit about finding teammates, building a good team to push in any arena season, um, how I did it, some personal experiences, stuff like that, how I reckon you should probably do it if you're really struggling to find teammates, and how to keep a team for the entire season, this type of stuff. So this was a video I kind of planned on doing a while ago, but I think I recorded it and didn't really like how it turned out. And I think I wanted to base this more on some personal experiences and talk a little bit more about that. So finding arena partners is probably, I think, one of the hardest things about pushing, right? So pushing in arena, the majority of the times, if you're trying to get a rating that you don't normally get, right? Like maybe if you're normally 1800, you're looking for 2100. If you're normally 1500, you're looking for 1800, so on and so forth, right? And similar type of thing even at the high levels, right? If you're normally 2100 and you're looking for Glad looking for rank 1. I think a big reason why having the same team the entire season helps you so much is because you, as a team, right? Like obviously, WoW, there's individual MMR and CR, but then there's like this average, right? So like all three of you have an average MMR, which is the MMR that's shown at the end of the game. Now, a lot of that will be based on like skill and mechanics and all this kind of stuff. But if you play with the same team consistently, you might have the same MMR as a team that, has three individually good players, but you have this sort of hidden benefit where you have really good synergy. You don't you all know what the go is, you know who to kill, you know how to rotate your defensives, all this kind of stuff, right? Which isn't really captured there. So if you're trying to push a rating that you not don't normally get to, and you're versing people who are probably mechanically better than you, being in a team and practicing together, getting that synergy, getting that decision making, that gameplay right is super important, right? And you're probably wondering, like, I think a lot of people like the BG background vids, and I will keep doing those, but there is a purpose, reason why I'm in LUN, which I'll get to. Um, and this is what's helped me every time. Every time I've pushed rating to a higher level, it's always been with a team, right? And you might have multiple teams over a season, you might have multiple teams over a week, right? Depending on how they go. But every time I've sort of seen my gameplay improve and my decision making improve and how I play improve, it's because I've played with the same two people, two, three people consistently for at least a month or two. That's when you're going to see massive benefits to how you play. Similar thing in twos as well, right? When you just play with the same twos partner over and over again, you can beat teams that, might have way better people but have no synergy, right? So let me talk a little bit about my experiences. So obviously I started playing WoW in like 2009 or something. 2000, yeah, I started playing WoW in 2009 and did Arena in 2010, right? Took Arena a lot more seriously, sort of the end of 2010, started Cataclysm, this type of stuff. And I had a pretty basic team, some couple people on my server who, like, because it was a PvE server, there weren't too many people interested in Arena. So finding those three people, I forgot to turn alert boxes out again. So luckily to D Jordson 0505, you get a free shout out on this video. Um, so generally what I tend to find is in these smaller servers back in the day, you used to have like 10 or 11 people into PvP, and the rest of them would do PvE, would do raids and stuff like that. So getting into that clique was kind of important, and I think largely it's the same now. There's still a lot of cliques in WoW, in Arena, all this kind of stuff that are very, very prevalent. A lot of people queue with people they know, that are in their friendship groups, that are in their general circle. And that's how you meet a lot of potential partners. That's how you find queues, all this kind of stuff, right? It's why even though somebody might be a returning rank 1, if all their partners had quit and don't play the game anymore, they're still going to have a hard time finding partners because they're not in the inside group. And you might see that if you watch really high level streams. You'll see the same sort of, I would say, 15 people queue in little groups. So I think like Magnus, Jar, these guys tend to queue with each other, which is natural. Everyone does the same thing, right? Maybe they'll have new people come in now and then, but of course with the AWC teams and stuff like that, they'll have a small group of people they'll queue with. They'll have their main team, this type of stuff. Um, So I think for a lot of arena players just starting out, it's really hard to find your group of arena people to play with. And generally, when I would move servers a lot, and like that was really important back in the day because you had to make teams. So I moved to Frostmourne, which is a server I'm on now, and I went in like trade chat and just spammed looking for twos and threes. Eventually, actually, I got a message. I think I got to like 2200 or something in Kata season one, and then eventually got a message from someone to come to, I think, what was it? It was like Bartholus? No, it was ENR or something, some dead server, and play with their team, this KFC, right? And generally, the KFC was a really OP comp at the time. You had Stampede, and you could just one-shot people. So I think at the time we cheesed out to about 2470, which was my experience then. And yeah, I was super stoked at that. We would have probably gotten glad because we were on a dead battleground battle group, but it was a US realm. You couldn't do any cross realm stuff at the time. So what I did was I after we got that rating, I think we got it in like 2 days. I quit and moved servers again, and moved to a different server. Didn't get any real rating there from what I imagined. I quit in season 9, came back um, in mob, played the first season of mob, got about 2200, quit again. Came back in one, got about 2200, quit again, and then I didn't play Legion at all. I was in uni or college, whatever you want to call it. Um, and when I came back for BFA, I'd finished college. It'd been like 2 years or something. I think Legion came out when I was in my middle of uni, and then BFA came out when I graduated, ish, a year before I graduated. So in BFA, I had a really like hard time finding partners, and this is where I think a lot of you guys will relate. I had some experience, but like it was old experience from WOD and and mop and kata and stuff. It wasn't too relevant. I was pretty bad at the game. I'm not gonna lie. I think I thought I was good, but I was pretty bad. And I guess how I started my arena experience was I just went and I said, I'm gonna get my twos to 2100, and then I'm gonna focus on threes. Which, in retrospect, I think that's actually quite a smart decision for a lot of you, for reasons I will explain in a second. But pushing my twos to 2100, I eventually found a HPAL. At the time, HPALs were quite good in twos back then in season one because they had like these melee wings and they had rep, and people weren't really used to rep and Hodge, Hodge reps. So you'd cheese out a lot of wins like that. And playing that for that season, I got to 2100 and twos, and then I think eventually I found I would move to servers, move to Horde, and Horde has a much more active LFG. So if you're on Alliance and you're struggling to find partners, and the main thing you do in this game is PvP, I would recommend going to Horde just because there's way more people to play with. And that's a really, really important thing about efficiently finding people in LFG. Getting to the crux of this video, and hopefully this isn't bored anyone. Um, how I found people was I just went into every single LFG group and I kind of played 5 or 6 games with each people. Firstly I found a comp I really liked to play, which at the time was Warrior Shadow Priest Arsham, right? So what I would do is I would go and do a whole bunch of twos. I'd find some Arshams from twos. I'd find a whole bunch of Shadow Priests, right? And we would just sit, me and this like a warrior, as a warrior and a healer at the time. It wasn't too hard to find a shadow priest if you're specifically looking for a shadow priest, right? So we'd find some shadow priests. We played with I think 3 or 4 shadow priests, and we got to about 2250, 2300 CR pretty early in the season. And then after that, the shaman I played with kind of stopped playing, and I met him through LFG. So it wasn't like we had any strong ties together. And I went back to the drawing board. Eventually, I just kept looking, and I think this is a big one. I found 2 people who mained, I think it was Ret Hunter. They played Ret Hunter Disc at the time. So the Disc Priest had an Arsham alt, and the Hunter or the Ret, I forgot which one it was. He had a SP alt, right? So I found them and I said, hey, I want to play a couple games. I was a bit above them in CR or something, but they had more XP than me because they were already Glad in the season, or they were like 48 out of 50 wins of Glad. So we played Warrior SP Arsham. They were a really good team, and we essentially climbed from 2100 to about 2700 ish, like MMR and 22 620 CR in I think roughly 5 days or 4 or 5 days. So I went from kind of being a 2200 pleb to being about 2600 CR. Got my glad mount, which is kind of what I wanted in the season, and I was going back to uni, so I quit again, right? Um, and when I tried to come back in season three, the healer had already, skyrocketed in CR. He was playing RMP in season four, got to like 2950 or 30k or something. Was doing really really well, and the SP was gone, so I couldn't play with them either. So in season four, met more people, just kept LFGing and building. And this is what I really recommend doing: building your threes networks via healers in twos, right? So if you can get really good at twos, impress a lot of healers, convince them to give you a chance in threes, or if they don't have much three CR, convince them to try learning threes with you. That's a really good way to get a threes team going because a lot of people, DPS, good DPS, will just look in LFG and they'll only look for teams that have like damage and healer, right? Like something like this probably has heaps of applications compared to this one. So two DPS always have a hard time finding a healer, whereas a healer and a DPS tend to have their pick of the world. Using a service like ArenaMate or Check PvP, you can look at the ratings of these guys and kind of talk to them, right? Say, hey, you know, suss them out. You're going to have your pick of the field and you can decide what comp you want to play, right? Um, and that's a really, really good way to fill your battle net. So I've got a pretty good battle net full of healers. I use this thing called battle net groups where I've got my healers and different people I know play heals in different ratings. And then I've got like people who do PvE with me, melee DPS, range DPS, all this kind of stuff. And just I think these are just new people I haven't categorized yet. So generally, what I would recommend is go and build your twos rating, build your two skills with anyone that will play with you, and try and foster good relationships with these people. Find the people who are willing to jump on cord even at low CR. Ask them if they're willing to do some threes. Test that out because a lot of people might be, especially if you're learning PvP, a bit more defensive about their twos rating. Because usually their twos rating is higher than threes because they haven't played threes yet. And might be just willing to just go and give threes a crack. And threes is good because there's a reason to jump on Discord even at low CR because it helps a lot in coordination. So that's a big thing I recommend. I think even for lower CR2 stuff that you're doing, 1600 to 1800, try and find people who are the same XP and CR as you. If you're inviting like a multi rank 1 healer alt, right, for twos, sure you might get more rating right now, but that guy is not going to play with you. Like he just has no incentive really, unless he likes you. He's a friend of yours. Maybe you get along really well, which might not be real, like happen all the time. That there's no reason for him to keep playing with you. He's not going to push with you. He's not learning anything with you. He's just giving you a favor, right? And it's a big thing. And I don't mean to like blow any smoke up my own ass or any people who are high ratings ass, but you'll find a lot of people who just want like a twos carry or pushing rating in twos, and then you'll get them there, and then they'll have trouble finding anyone else because it's really important to find people that are same rating as you, same mindset, and push together with them throughout that entire journey, as corny as that sounds, because that is what actually improves you as a player because you're learning and understanding what you're both doing wrong and adapting and building around that, right? So super important to try and find somebody who's the same rating as you. And people kind of ask me, well, how do I actually find these people? I honestly think just coming into LUN, right, or wherever Duratar, any big server, right, inspecting people, seeing what their rating is, seeing, what they do. This guy does more twos and threes. You know, um, this dude just made a new account. Let me see if I can find some other people. Let's say this like Rep Pally, right? He's got 1843 and threes. You could, if you're somebody who might be 1900 and threes, you might send him a message. Hey man, looking to set up a permanent team of threes to push rating to a goal. I would highly recommend saying a goal. Hey, we're trying to push Gladiator. We're looking for a Red Paladin. Are you interested? The majority of people are pretty stoked to get that because everyone has issues with LFG. they are pretty happy, especially as the ratings go higher, to go and you know take the effort to put that in there, right? And like even if you guys lose, you have a deeper connection than what you do on LFG. Like if on LFG, like it's so transactional, there's no reputation, that people don't know each other, there's no kind of expectation that people are courteous, even though they should be. Um, so people just leave after a loss. Whereas this type of system, people know each other on the Realm or Duratar or Eluen or whatever. Um, they'll have to kind of run into you, so they don't really want to make a bad exchange. And if you just whisper everyone here, they'll be pretty honest when they say like, "Hey man, sorry, I already have a team. Hey bro, like I don't like that comp stuff like that." If people whisper me here, I genuinely will like 90% of the time, unless I'm doing something else, will respond and be pretty nice about it. So that's the first thing. The other thing is obviously sitting in LFG. You can look for LFG groups. Maybe what I would recommend is making something like a starting group looking for permanent twos healers and just say like 1500 CR, looking to push 2100 CR this season. I'm very interested in learning, want to use comms. It's a etc, right? Something like that, right? Because that is something you can just put up. Maybe you go make some dinner. You just say, hey, whisper me if you're interested, and you'll find people who have the same mindset as you. So people who are willing to look for a permanent team and push the entire season rather than people who are just looking to get their 10 wins for the weekly. Maybe they get their weekly vault done, all this kind of crap, right? So you don't want to find people who are doing that. You want to find people who are similar CR to you, who are interested in learning, who want a permanent team, and finally that meet your schedule, right? So it is important to find people that you can queue with consistently. So you have to ask people when they normally play, how often they play, if they're willing to do XYZ for XYZ and do shit like that, right? It's just super, super important to coordinate that and set it up. One thing I see a lot of people do is they make a permanent team and then their teammates actually have no time at the same times as them, and it gets awkward because you have to replace people. Try and find people with a similar lifestyle as you as well. If you're queuing with two 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds who have infinite time, and you're like 30 and trying to work full time or overtime even, that's never going to work. They're going to try and replace you, even if you guys get along well and do well as a team. And that kind of goes along the chart, right? Like find people who are similar to you in age, mindset, where you are in life, because they're going to respect your priorities a lot more. And all this sounds very, very corny, but obviously, if you're into our arena, it's an important thing for you. You want to have fun doing it. We spend hours in LFG, we spend hours in arena. Why not take it seriously, right? And I guess the other thing you can do is go to like check PvP and whisper people, find LFG messages here, whisper these guys and say, hey, look, are you looking for a permanent team? I'm looking to make something more serious. Is this something that interests you? But obviously, that way you can link that up with your healer network that you know from twos. Essentially, with a lot of WoW PvP, you just have to build a network, know people. Um, as corny as that sounds, right? It sounds like LinkedIn or something. Know people, be nice to people. Generally, don't be a dick because people find out pretty easily. Like if I see someone who's like a dick, I've played with someone like in twos, even on my alt, who's just a prick. I will, and like a friend of mine's like, hey, do you know this guy? Like I'm queuing with this guy. I will tell them, hey man, don't queue with that guy. He's a douchebag. Stuff like that, right? You just need to be smart about how you play. If you get toxic, don't take it out too much. It's different thing than being frustrated and toxic. You don't want to be frustrated or toxic way too much. Once every Q session is not too bad, but you don't want that to define you, right? So I guess finally, I think you just want to be known as a good player. So always keep looking to push your gameplay. Always improve your communication skills on Discord, which we'll talk about in other videos. But like you just have to reach out to a whole bunch of people to get this started. Go to Discords. I think there's like a World of PvP Discord. There's a whole bunch of Discords on Reddit. There's Reddit posts to find this. You need to increase the chances that you can find people. And finally, you do need to get the basics done right. So go farm your gear, farm your renown, get your covenants, conduits done, get your legendary max, do all the stuff that's important, right? Because nobody wants a queue with somebody who has no gear as well. Give yourself the highest chance possible. All right, guys, that concludes this video. Hope this was useful. A lot of it was anecdotal. A lot of it's just my past experiences and stuff like that. And ultimately, that's what I think a lot of you guys enjoy from my videos. Have an excellent week. Have way more videos coming out. So take it easy, guys. Peace out.